If you're running out of So Me songs to sing with your kiddos, then you're gonna want Frog in the Meadow. This is a super cute singing game that includes frogs and So and Me and Quarter Rest, and it can be used so much. Your kiddos will absolutely loved it. I've used it from kindergarten through 2nd grade. The game I feel like works a little bit better with the 1st and 2nd graders. For kindergarten it's a little bit iffy, but you can totally do it with them anyway, and they're all gonna love it. So let's talk about the song. First of all, the actual song. So the song goes, frog in the meadow, can't get him out, take a little stick and stir him about. Super, super cute, super, super simple, and again, So Me, Quarter Rest, all those good things. Now, this one has a singing game along with it. So to play the singing game, what happens is the kids sit in a circle. One person's the frog, and they stand in the middle, they close their eyes, and they put their finger out, and they spin around while we sing. At the end of the song, they freeze, and whoever they're pointing at, they go over to those two, like the two people they're pointing at. And you can do this standing and hands held, or if you want it a little calmer, you can have them seated. But you have them grab hands, and the frog goes like shoop, like in Cut the Cake, like cut the hands. Those two people go around the circle all the way in opposite directions, come back and high five the frog. Whoever gets to the frog first is the winner. Now, I will say, if you don't want to do the like closing eyes and spinning around, you could also do it more like a Duck Duck Goose situation, where you go around and then have them tap on the shoulders. Again, that's an easy way to make it calmer, is tap on the shoulders instead of having them like cut the hands instead. But really super fun. It is a little bit of like moving pieces, which is why I like it better with like 2nd graders, because they can understand a little more like, oh, we're going in opposite directions around the circle and all of those kind of things. Super, super fun though, and once your kids get the hang of it, they will absolutely love it. Once I get them like to where they understand it, we can just go and go and go and go, and it is a great time. Now, since you can use this one for So and Me and for Quarter Rest, I'm going to talk about like how I use it for So and Me, and then I'll talk about how I use it for Quarter Rest, and then we'll talk about a few other things you can do along with this song, like extensions and other things. So if you're teaching So and Me, okay, so when I introduce this song, I usually just have the kids take their hand and make it into a frog. I need a frog puppet, that would be helpful. But I have them make their hand into a frog, and we sing, and the frog jumps while we sing. So he goes, frog in the meadow, can't get him out. And he goes back and forth while we are jumping, which ends up matching the so's and me's and all that good stuff. Then we play the game, and the good thing about singing games is that you play them over and over and over, which means the kids now hear the song in their head 87 bajillion times, which is why we love singing games, because you can get those songs stuck in your head, and then it will help with other things. On a different day, I'll bring the song back out and I'll say, huh, what happens when my frog jumps up here? And they're like, oh, your voice goes up. I'm like, oh, what if my frog comes down here? And they're like, oh, your voice is low. I'm like, oh, so my frog is just kind of matching what my voice is going and showing me the highs and the lows and all that great stuff. So when my frog jumps up high, we'll call it high. When my frog jumps down low, we'll call it low. We'll do some echoes, so I'll sing like high, low, and they'll match me like that, and we'll just echo sing a couple of patterns. Then I like to pull out my frog manipulatives. By the way, I have a whole lesson pack for this lesson. It has Google Slides for So and Me and Google Slides for Rest that include game directions, lyrics, all of these things that I'm talking about, like exactly how to teach this part. And you also get fun things like principles and like frog manipulatives. So I pull out my little frog manipulatives, and they're like little cutout frogs, and you get a log and you make your little frog on the log. And so I like to do this first. We'll do it all together, and I'll like sing, you know, high, low, and the kids will put the frogs, you know, to make that shape. You could also just use like bingo chips, but frogs are more fun. And so we'll do it that way. And then in another day, I might have them do that in partners and work with each other to make up their own patterns, or use like task cards that say, you know, H for high and L for low, and have them do it that way. Those things are included, by the way. But super, super fun. So then on yet another day, because this is never a one-day thing, on another day, then I'll pull the song back out. We'll sing the highs and lows. We'll talk about the highs and lows, and I like to put it up on the screen, have them point to the highs and lows, and I'll ask them like, oh, what's happening on the notes in the top? And they're like, oh, they sound high. What about the notes in the bottom? Oh, they sound low. Great. In music, we have special names for these two notes. We don't actually call them high and low, because that would be silly. I always tell them, do you think that musicians I said, do you think when I go to choir rehearsal, I say like, oh, we have high and then low and then high and then low? And they're like, no. I'm like, no, no, no. Because we have fancy schmancy musician names for things. And so our fancy names for these are so and me. You say so. Great. You say me. Great. And then we'll do the hand signs so they can see that. We'll echo sing a couple of patterns. We'll sing the song with the hand signs and with the so's and me's. And echo things, and then typically we'll use that to go into another so me song to kind of like take it, you know, one step further. And then in another class, we'll bring it back out again to practice so and me, and either we'll have the kids like glue frogs on the paper to like make their own little pattern, or have them use like the worksheets to like fill out different patterns and stuff like that. So that's how I use Frog in the Meadow to teach so and me. If I'm using Frog in the Meadow to teach rest, then I start kind of similarly, and I'll have the kids hop to the beat with their little froggies. And this is our frog, by the way, when I say that, right here, right there. So we'll have him hop to the beat with our frogs, and then we'll have the kids tap the beat to the song. So either put it up on the screen, have them tap the heartbeats, or have like a heartbeat chart and have them tap there. Both of those are included in the lesson pack, by the way. And then I'll show the rhythm, but I leave the rest covered up. I actually have a frog on the rest. And my favorite is, I'm like, great, let's read the rhythm to go with the song. Is frog in the meadow, can't get him out. So the first line is ta ti ti ta ta, and then the second line is ta ti ti ta, and I'll be pointing on the board, and when we get there and there's a frog, I look at the board and I look at them and I look at the board and I look at them and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, it's a frog. And I'm like, do you think that's a music note? And they're like, no. I'm like, huh, what's happening when we get to this frog part? And they're like, oh, that was, you know, and they might say something like, oh, the song stopped, is what a lot of them have been telling me lately. The song stopped there, or it was quiet there, or we didn't say anything. I'm like, oh, great. So my frog is telling me to be quiet. When we get to our frog, we're gonna be quiet and we're gonna do this. Or I've done like question mark, or I've done like pretend to go to sleep. Lots of different options. Whatever you want to do, but put something there. So when you see the frog, we're going to be quiet. The frog means we're quiet. Then we'll go through again, so that now that we know that the frog means quiet. Then after that, I'll have the kids get some little manipulatives that have like just a quarter note and like eighth notes, and then some that have question marks on them. Or you could do frogs to keep it consistent, but I already had the question marks, so we are using question marks. And we'll make different patterns with the question marks so that they get used to reading and writing and having those like quiet parts. And I like to do this on heartbeat charts so that they can see like, oh, my question mark lives on a heart because it gets a beat, even though it's a beat of quiet. So really emphasizing that all throughout, talking about quarter rest, so that we understand that it's a beat of quiet. So then after we've, you know, practiced that a couple times, we've done this maybe over a few different days, I'll bring the song back out and I'll say, and we'll point to the beat, we'll point to the rhythm, and when we get there again, I'll say, okay, so my little frog here, does he have a beat? Yes, I see a heartbeat right there. Great. Does he have any noise? No. Okay, so my frog is representing a beat of quiet. Do we have a rhythm that represents a beat of quiet? And I'll put a quarter note and an eighth note up on the board. Those are the only ones that we know at this point. And so we'll say, okay, quarter note is one sound on one beat. Eighth notes are two sounds on one beat. Do either of these have no sounds on one beat? And they're like, no. I'm like, great. So this must be a new rhythm. And then I'll show them what a quarter rest looks like. And I'll say, this is our rest. Our rest is one beat of quiet. And then with quarter rest, especially because it's a little bit funky, I like to show them how to draw it right off the bat so that they know. So I'll draw it correctly, and then I'll say, or you can draw a Z, or you can draw a 3, and those things are close enough that I will understand it. Even though we're not drawing them like today, I just like to throw that out there so that we have some sort of understanding about how we do this. Then I'll have the kids echo some different rhythms with quarter rest. So I'll say a rhythm, they'll say a rhythm back. I usually do like 3, and then when I get to number 4, I'll say, does anybody think that they could tell me what this rhythm does? And that gives the kids much more like into it and participating, and gets it, you know, it's not about you. So getting the kids more into it. So I'll have the kids try it, and if they don't get it right the first time, that's okay. But they try it, and so we'll either say like, oh, that's not quite right. Do you want to try again? Do you want someone else to help you? Or if they get it, we'll be like, oh, good job, Johnny. And then we'll all say it as well. So we're all practicing, even though not everyone is doing one on our own. Then typically, again, I'll use a rhythm to drive in a new song that is similar. And on another day, then we'll use like frog theme worksheets to create tas and TTs and rests and all of that good stuff. There's lots of ones that are included in the lesson pack, so you'll have that all covered. So that's how you teach quarter rest or sew with me with the singing game Frog in the Meadow. If you want to make this lesson like super easy, make sure you have the lesson packed down below. It includes Google Slides that teach all of these concepts. It literally like goes through the slides and is like has all the questions that you can ask to guide the kids to understanding. And then it also includes printables, so worksheets and things you can use to work on those concepts. Great for subplans, by the way. And also a like fun little frog manipulative situation that you can use for Sew with Me. So click down below to grab that, and I will see you next time. Bye.